Hi folks, it's Connie from FAFF Designs. Welcome to the Dixie Belle YouTube channel. In the video you're about to watch, I'm going to give this piece a bit of a boho makeover using Dixie Belle's chalk mineral paint. Okay, so the base colours of this piece were made up of three colours. And that's because I wanted to build a kind of a tonal variation and I didn't want one flat colour. So the colours I'm using from the chalk mineral paint range are Muscadine Wine, Plum Crazy and Barn Red, and I'm applying them in a fairly random way. There is no rhyme or reason, but I'm just adding mainly Muscadine Wine as the base colour, but I am adding little pockets of Plum Crazy and Barn Red just to highlight and, like I say, give that tonal variation. I left the base coat to dry overnight just to make sure that it is completely dried. And then my next colour, which might seem a little bit random, is Tree Frog Green. So the final colour that I wanted for this was going to be a nice turquoisey blue colour. So the base colour was really to provide something that would be in contrast to that final colour. And then I'm going to build up my colours with layers of washes. So a paint wash is just paint that's been watered down. The only difference this time is that I did add a little bit of sea spray in there as well, just because I wanted a more kind of weathered look with a little bit of like a gritty finish. So I decided to add a little bit of sea spray into the mix, and basically all I did was worked in small areas, added some Tree Frog Green and removed excess in areas where I wanted the base colour to show through, and I'm using my water mister to remove that paint as well and give a kind of more drippy weathered finish. The next layer that I added after the Tree Frog Green, so I allowed the Tree Frog Green to dry. The next colour I'm using is Cobalt Blue. Again, using a really similar technique to the previous step. I did water this colour down as well, and I did again add a little bit of sea spray into the mixture. So again, just applying it straight over the top, using my water mister to take some of the paint back and dab it away with a rag just to kind of get that base colour showing through. And just working the layers up, adding layers, removing a little bit, adding a little bit more. So I was kind of playing around with how I wanted it to look. And you'll notice that I'm working in quite small areas. This is to make sure the paint doesn't dry before I've had a chance to kind of work it. If I did the whole piece all at once, I wouldn't be able to kind of remove those layers back because the paint would already be starting to dry. Colour number 6, I believe this is. This one is Mermaid Tail, and if you'll notice, this is kind of a little bit more of a solid colour than the others. This is because I didn't add quite as much water to this mixture. I still added a little bit of sea spray, and I do kind of still want that look where it's been applied as a paint wash. But it is slightly thicker because I do want this coverage to be better. I want this to be one of the main colours of my piece. And once that first layer of Mermaid Tail had dried, I went in with a blue applicator sponge that I cut in half, and I used it to apply the paint in a sort of dabbing motion, and this is to really get a kind of soft finish to the paint, and it also allows me to add paint in areas to build up the coverage, and then leave other areas a little bit more exposed so that you can see the base colours underneath. And it's not very often that I paint with a sponge, but I must say that it looked really quite effective, and it's definitely something I'll be using in the future. So you can see here that I'm now using a brush to apply the final colour number 7, which is the Gulf. Again, a really pretty turquoisey tone, slightly bluer than Mermaid Tail, but works really well on this piece, I think. And I just needed something to kind of bring it all together. So I applied it with the Best Dang brush, and it was a very light coat of paint to allow those other colours to come through. It was almost a dry brush technique, and that basically means I applied a small amount onto my brush, removed the excess onto a rag, and then just swirled it over areas. Again, I used a wet distress technique. I grabbed a rag with a little bit of water spritzed on it and just removed some of that paint before it has a chance to dry, just to give a really soft distressing technique to the piece, and that allows all those base colours and the colour washes to peek through. So I allowed all of the paint layers to dry overnight. Then I applied Best Dang wax in clear. This is just going to offer a little bit more protection to the paint finish and also give a really beautiful sheen to the piece. I then added Best Dang wax in brown, just around the drawer edges and around the handles. I'm applying it with a premium chip brush, which is the brush that I really like for a kind of soft finish when I apply wax. This is just going to add a little bit of depth around the drawer edges and give that kind of soft antique-y feel. Once I'd applied the brown wax in the areas that I wanted it, I then removed the excess with the sponge that I'd applied the clear wax with. So this acts as an eraser, and because we've added that clear wax first, it gives much more control over the coloured wax application. It means you can remove the excess without it kind of going too muddy and brown. So just as a finishing touch, I used copper gilding wax and applied it with my finger just lightly over the hardware and the metalwork on the doors. I didn't want full coverage of this, that's why I'm using my finger really lightly. And gilding wax is an oil-based wax. They are really highly pigmented and they are permanent, so they're perfect for use on hardware and hinges. So I also applied some Big Mama's butter to the inside of this cabinet to revive that wood grain. Here's a close-up shot of all those gorgeous layers. I think it looks really soft and pretty. And here's the final stage shot. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you are subscribing to the Dixie Belle Paint YouTube channel.